This is Instalock Lol taking a look at Hearthstone, and today I'm going to be looking at the Miracle Rogue. This is a very strong deck. At the end of season one, it was basically everyone was playing it. In the top 16 players, everyone was pretty much playing Miracle Rogue except for like a couple people. Uh, so we're gonna look at the deck here. So first, I'll point out some key points and I'll go through each deck. You want Gadgets and Auctioneer because the idea is to draw your whole deck. Leroy Jenkins because that's your key lethal combo. And yeah, and just a bunch of spell cards. So we'll go into it. Backstab, uh, cheap. It costs 0. Very easy to synergize with Gadgets and Auctioneer to draw. Also good for clear, good for countering Zoo or any real aggro deck. It's a good and it synergizes with combos. Preparation, amazing card. One of the key cards in this deck. I usually keep it in the starting hand if it's there, unless I'm. Well, no, I pretty much always keep it unless I'm really looking for Gadgetson if it's control or something. So yeah, preparation works really well. Of course, when you play it, you get to draw a card with Gadgetson, and then the next spell is free, so you can make fun things. Shadow Step, pretty much needed. It is the broken combo with Leroy Jenkins. You play Leroy Jenkins, attack, Shadow Step, Leroy Jenkins, attack, Shadow Step, Leroy Jenkins, attack. That's 18 damage. It's pretty deadly. The Cold Blood gives even more damage on top of Leroy Jenkins as well. Gives, lets you whittle them down a bit if you want early on, so you can get them into the lethal range. A fair amount of times I use it on a random minion rather than Leroy Jenkins just to get them into the 18 health range. Um, yeah, Conceal. Conceal works really well with Gadgetson. Auctioneer, obviously, if you play Gadgetson, you preparate Conceal. He's pretty much safe, and then you can spam loads of spells and get to drawing your deck. Or you can just wait a turn. On turn 6, you can Conceal, or you can Gadgetson coin Conceal if you start as the second player. Next up, Deadly Poison. So works really well with clear with the next card Blade Fury. Also really good for dealing with aggro. Also really cheap card that works well with Gadgetson. But because of it, you need to keep that in mind. So you need to keep your dagger on you a lot of the time. So sometimes you won't attack on some turns, kind of early on, kind of thing, with your hero power. Except Blade Fury, really good for clear, really good versus aggro. Also, if you have some magic damage and you have deadly poison, Blade Fury can also kill the invisible Gadgets and Auctioneer if you're facing a Miracle Rogue in the mirror matchup. So it has uses in pretty much every matchup, and it's actually crazy useful versus a lot of the not only aggro decks, but like the big health. It helps clear those as well. Moving on, Eviscerate, really good for damaging your opponent to get them into lethal range. Really good for clearing versus aggro decks. It's overall a really good card. Sap. This mainly the point of Sap is to get rid of big taunts because they are pretty much the biggest threat to this deck is taunts. And this helps you deal with those. So you should generally run 2. Its Sap is it's not generally the best versus decks that don't really have taunts if they're aggro, but it's really good versus those. It's basically needed to have 2 for the other decks, so you have to run 2. And it's just another thing to draw with, obviously. Shiv, really good deal 1 damage, draw a card. Basically, you're going to draw 2 cards with Gadgetzan, which is crazy good. You just got to keep in mind that you don't like mill your deck a bit because you don't want to have too full of a hand uh, that you like lose cards because you have too many cards in hand. Next up, Blood Mage Talentos. This card is okay. It could be replaced by Loot Hoarder or the Cobalt. Let's see if I can find it here. The Cobalt Geomancer, because spell damage is good, but like the draw card is really good as well. So Loot Hoarder can work as well. It works really well with Backstab for clearing. Works really well with Eviscerate for clearing. Of course, you can just play it if you're not worried about clearing, just to draw a card. It works well with Shiv, works with Blade Fury. Blade Fury is impacted by Blood Mage, so you keep that in mind. Alright. It's just all around a really good card in the deck. Fan of Knives. Really good. Works as well as Shiv. The only reason you only run 1 is that it's costs 3 mana, which is a lot, but still with preparation, it's really good. If you can Gadgetzan prep Fan Knives, it's really worth it. A lot of people, if they're not facing, it's really good versus aggro decks as well, but of course the high mana cost hurts it. Next up, I have Earthen Ring Farseer. It's really good versus aggro decks. It gives a fair amount of threat on the board. I mean, if you play this on the board, your opponent usually wants to get rid of it, and it gives you a heal, which is nice. Next up, really big card in the deck, Edwin Vancleef. Now, this card is a card that a lot of people don't have, but it's really good. Like, as soon as I the card, and I put it in this deck, it was really noticeable how impactful this card is. It's a really big threat. It can put your opponent into lethal range if you attack them, and then they'll be low enough for Leroy Jenkins to work, and your opponent wants to get rid of it. It's a really big card in the deck, and you can get it to crazy strengths with Gadgetzan, obviously, but that's not really the point of it. But yeah, it's a really big card. Next up, SI Agent works with all the spells. Its combo is really easy to get off, and you can use it for board clear. And it's a nice little threat. Leroy Jenkins. We've already been over. Key part of the deck. Basically wins you games. You want to draw into Leroy. Yeah. Next up, Assassin's Blade. Now this is a tricky one, especially with the lack of warriors out right now. You could run double Azure Drake. That's fine. You could run other things as well. Double Conceal or something else. Or you could run the Loot Hoarder or something. But Assassin's Blade is basically in the deck solely for the warrior matchup. Warrior basically is a pain with all the armor they gain. It's hard to go through them. This card really helps versus that matchup. And it works really well with Deadly Poison. If you Deadly Poison it, it's huge. Like 3, 4. That's if you figure that out, that's 12 damage. With Deadly Poison, that's 20 damage. If you double Deadly Poison that's 28 damage. So that's crazy broken. Yeah. Next up, Azure Drake. Despite what we think, this is a really key card in the deck. Draw a card, so it's not even worth. It doesn't even take a card out because your hand gets the card back. Spell damage is really impactful, of course, for clearing with Backstab, Eviscerates, and Blade Fury again. And it's just all around well-rounded card. Usually you only run 1, but if you sacrifice Assassin's Blade, you can run 2. It's really good. People want to clear it. It's like a second Gadgetzan in a kind of way. It has a lot of threat like a Gadgetzan. And then finally, of course, the Gadgetzan itself synergizes with the deck. You draw your deck, get your combo, and you kill them. That's basically the point of Gadgetzan. And yeah, that's basically it. There's a couple things that I know some people do. I know a couple of people run Loot Hoarders because it has a good presence on the board and you draw a card with it. I just don't like it because it's really weak versus shamans if they earth shock it. Of course, they are wasting a card for it, but it kind of makes the card useless. There's other things you could throw in. I guess you could use many other things. Oh, I know some decks run Novice Engineer. It works basically the same point as Loot Hoarder, though, so you could do that. I know Mana Addict is in some versions of the deck. It works as like a cheaper kind of combo card, I guess. It's okay. It's not really amazing, but yeah, that's kind of it. I'll just quickly go through these other cards. I know there's other versions of this deck that use Sinister Strike. I know there's versions of the deck that use Partition's Blade, helps you clear out the board. And let's see here. And that's pretty much it. So, yep, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Leave any comments, questions in the comment section.